Welcome into the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. I'm Kay Donaldson, the director of the Alabama Bass Trail and the host for this week's podcast. And if you don't know, or you haven't already heard or already seen a social media post, it is ABT North Week. It is time to kick off this season at Smith Lake. And as of right now, on Monday at 10:05 a.m., there is no snow in the forecast. There are no freezing conditions in the forecast. We are looking at in the high 60s to low 70s for daytime temperatures, and the lows being in the low 50s. I said this on my own Facebook page the other day. Outside of being 16 years old and thinking I was going to get a new car when I turned 16, or when I turned 21 and I was going to legally be able to have a bush light, I can't remember a time I've been this excited. And as we know, it is the Alabama Bass Trail, so there will be some change in the weather. There will be a polar vortex. There may be tornadoes or whatever. But right now, let's bask in the glory that we are looking at decent weather throughout the week. We are expecting a little rain on Thursday, but really the chances are anywhere in that 20 to 40% chance of rain, even going into Saturday. But when we look at the potential of a 67 to 70 degree air temperature day on ABT weekend, the first tournament of the year, you know what that means. It'll snow in March. So, I mean, let's just be honest. No one can look at that forecast and believe that that's real. I'll be honest. I looked at it several times before I would even post it. Cannot wait to get to Smith Lake. I'm going to have Mr. Luke Dunkin, the low lifer himself, on in the second segment. We're going to talk all things Smith Lake. We're going to talk, realized last week when I talked to G that I don't know that I've ever asked Luke some of those crazy questions. What's his favorite food? What's his favorite drink? What is something he would like seeing brought back to bass fishing? I think I'll do that when I get him on the podcast here in just a little bit. But I am looking forward to being at Smith Lake. Of course, we'll be on the Jasper side at the dam. Thankful for Miss Linda Lewis and all of her great team of volunteers that she brings out morning and afternoon to help run this event, and her one and only voluntold. That's her husband, Ray. He'll be there. He gets there and lines off the parking area and gets everything lined up for us, works with our team once we get there on the ground on Friday. Been working with those guys now for 12 years. And wow, how they roll out the carpet for us, and can't wait to get there. So looking forward to kicking off the year with 450 anglers, 225 teams, all of the Alabama Bass Trail team, all of the live team, all of the TV crew, all of the live team back in Sylacauga. It's going to be a big, fun year on the Alabama Bass Trail. So buckle up, pull up your bootstraps, put on your big girl panties, whatever you've got to do. It is time to get going. And I did say that. Put on your big girl panties, because it's time. It's time to rock and roll on the Alabama Bass Trail. Let's talk a little bit about fishing in the state of Alabama right now. I mentioned last week that February 1st timeframe, kind of based on scheduling and what we were seeing, it was going to be the kickoff weekend for fishing in the state of Alabama. And unbelievable weights that we're seeing coming from places like Pickwick. They had two different tournaments this weekend on Pickwick, the Pickwick Winter Trail, I think, which takes place out of Mississippi. It continues to pump out amazing bags of fish. 3171 Ellis and Howell won that event. 3075 Edwards and McMillan in second place, and then 2997 in third place, Worley and Duncan. None of those names really trigger me. Like I don't know any of those names. Again, that's that's on the Mississippi side, but just amazing weights in that tournament. And then when you look, there's a new trail, because there's always a new trail in Alabama. There's always a new fishing trail. Anyway, there's always a new fishing trail. Northwest Alabama Fishing Trail goes to the same lakes the Tennessee River Trail goes to. So again, not sure, but anyway. Winning weight 25-13, Yeager and Hunt won there. couple familiar names in second place, 2498 Gaultney and Mitchell. That would be Cameron Gaultney and Mitch Mitchell. In that trail, there was 45-ish, 46 boats in that trail. They had 12 bags over 20 pounds, which was, a phenomenal tournament. I did not see how many bags over 20 they had in the one in Mississippi, but uh, Pickwick Lake still just continues to pump them out. And I cannot remember how many people in November when we were there for the ABT 100 were just talking about how dead the lake was, the lake's dead, blah, 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 blah. Something to be said for the lake is cyclical. Things happen, things change, technology's better, all the things. So anyway, we'll keep moving, but congratulations, Pickwick Lake, pumping them out right now. Lake Martin, they did have a BFL down there. I don't know how many boats. I want to say it was like 145 on the pro side. Not sure how many co-anglers they had. On the pro side, 1313 was the winning bag. His name is Steele Smith, kind of like the Steel Tools or whatever. So he won on the co-angler side. I want to say like maybe 9 pounds on the co-angler side is what won. That's typical January, February fishing at Lake Martin. We would hope to see when we get there at the end of February, that's going to go somewhere to that 15 to 16 pound frame. So, but we're looking forward to getting down there too. That's a great starting point for us. The facilities are fantastic. Being inside the state park, one of Alabama's crowning jewels there at Lake Martin. Lots of new construction going on there, lots of improvements going on there, and we always like to be down at Lake Martin. So looking forward to that. I said last week, I can't find anything on Smith Lake. Luckily, Mr. David Miller sent me a text over the weekend that said the University of Alabama had a charity tournament on Smith Lake, 1592 won, but in a close second, a team that you're going to recognize this name, Caleb and Connor Miller, came in second with 1582. I think that's a pretty good weight for right now. We've got a week long of warm temperatures. So I think our weight is going to go up a little bit. We're going to talk about that when we get Luke on the podcast. But 1582 was second place for Caleb and Connor Miller, starting up where they left off last year. You may remember at that Bass Team Championship, kind of felt skunked on day one. They had one fish. They postponed day two, went back day three, came in with over 17 pounds, and I think finished 44th. Just speaks to their character and the resilience, and they got out there and went after it. So really excited to see what they do this year. Just a reminder, they finished 12th in the Angler of the Year points last year in the Alabama Bass Trail South Division. So I think we're going to see big things come from those guys, and I'm going to talk about that some when we get with Luke as well. Lake Guntersville, the Rattle Trap Tournament, that kind of caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting the Rattle Trap Tournament. I don't know what rock I've been living under, if I've just been so focused on Alabama Bass Trail and the Alabama Bass Trail 100. But the Rattle Trap Tournament was this past weekend. I think it was on Sunday, actually. For Lake Guntersville, there was over 200 boats. Someone said 236. I haven't seen that officially, but it was over 200 boats. 2668 was the winning weight. They had a 775 in their bag. That was not the big fish of the tournament. Brian Sharp and Grant Smith won the event, and they had 16 bags over 20 pounds. I want to say 815 might have been the big fish. I know I saw that highlighted on a sheet. So 16 bags over 20 pounds, over 230-ish boats there. So a phenomenal tournament to really kick the season off at Guntersville. 200 boat tournaments are pretty common there, but glad to see that tournament had a great turnout. And I don't know anyone who doesn't like to go to Guntersville and throw a rattle trap. So congratulations to those guys for getting it done. And I do apologize. You're going to hear dings and everything anytime I do a podcast. It is the week of the Alabama Bass Trail First Tournament. Phone calls are going to come in, text messages are going to come in, emails are going to come in. It is just what it is, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I say this all the time. There are a ton of organizations that would love to be in the shape of the Alabama Bass Trail, sell out in 7 minutes, have a 70-team waiting list in the North. maybe 50 or so. I'll look at that in just a little bit before I go live with Luke, and I'll be able to give you those numbers better. We had 21 people on the waiting list in this ABT 100. And funny story, I was visiting a local restaurant last week. Just needed to get away out of the house. I work from home. Home is home. Everything's at home. And about 1 o'clock one day last week, I just needed to get out of the house for a minute. So I ran over to a local restaurant and I noticed this big jacked up pickup truck in the parking lot. It had a lot of fishing stuff on it. Didn't really pay attention to who it was. It's Coleman. There's lots of them that live here. When you look at Jesse Wiggins and Jordan Lee and Matt Lee and quite a few others. Gerald lives, close by and all that. So I don't really pay attention to that a whole lot. Um, I guess I'm just conditioned to it with living in North Alabama. Went in, got my food, sat down, and noticed sitting across from me, Mr. Robert G. And so I had my lunch and finished up and walked over and wished him the best of luck this year. And his comment to me was, "I sure wish you would have let me in that ABT 100." And he was the last person on the waiting list for the ABT 100 for this year. But really looking forward to seeing the schedule for 2026 and wished him good luck. And again, he did want to fish the ABT 100 this year and just was unable to get him in. We just didn't have anybody drop out. So we didn't have a whole lot of people to replace. So a lot of fun. Glad to see those guys eager to fish the Alabama Bass Trail 100. And we're looking forward to announcing that in just about a month. We'll announce that 2026 schedule. So, but anyway, like I said, it is ABT North Division week. Phones are going off, emails are going off, text messages are going off. And I have a feeling in this next segment, Mr. Luke Dunkin is going to go off because he's going to want to talk all about Smith Lake. We're going to talk about past winners, what it took last year when we were there. Of course, we were there a little bit later in the year. I think it was April. Took over 20 pounds to win, and we had a 701 big fish. So we're going to talk all things Smith Lake. We're going to talk about the North Division, kind of walk through that season, teams that we're going to be looking at throughout the year. Look at our anglers of the year from this past year, Ben Webb, Justin Bussey. Can they redo that year? With how the season is going to set up for them. So looking forward to that, and always looking forward to having Mr. Luke Dunkin on the podcast with me. So you guys stay tuned. I promise you're not going to want to miss this. Mr. Luke Dunkin, the lowlifer himself, up next on the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. Y'all stay tuned. Things you let me see. Welcome back to the second segment of the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. And I promised you, Mr. Lowlife himself, Luke Dunkin, the voice of the Alabama Bass Trail. Welcome in, brother.
Well, I am some kind of voice. I don't know if I'm the voice right now. I sound like who is the fella Don Day, the guy that brings the people into the club. Yeah. Welcome in, Skeet Reese. I sound
like. Don's actually done a couple of weigh-ins for us.
Okay. Well, dude, he's got a golden voice.
He does. I wonder, do you have that like insured? Like, do you insure your voice or something like that?
I had a friend that was a fantastic guitar player. Is all he did, Gary Nichols, and he had his hands insured.
Yeah.
That's real. So, because if that's your livelihood, what are you going to do? Something happens. So,
I've been to the Bassmaster Classic. I want to say, let me think. This is maybe my 15th year going to the Bassmaster Classic. I missed one. I missed the one in Fort Worth the first time because we had an ABT 100 that year. And his voice has not changed in 15 years of, two-time Bassmaster Angler of the Year, hailing from Guntersville, Alabama, Gerald Swindle, for a long time. Then Gerald had Bring Him Out, the song. So, but yeah, like I can go back and listen, and I don't think his voice has changed at all.
No. And I think he's a DJ from Montgomery or something.
Yeah. I think he does some radio stuff down there. After, God, I don't know, 20 years of yelling at baseball games and then high school football that I had no one involved in, and then high school basketball that I had no one involved in. I just have the remnants of whatever. Never smoked a day in my life. Yes, I drink an occasional beverage, but never smoked a day in my life. Never, but I feel like that I have that smoker's voice just because I have yelled
Me too.
so much at baseball.
Me
I
too.
mean, a lot of baseball.
My dad would lose his voice a ton when I was a kid. Go to a trade show and he'd come home and his voice would be zapped. And playing for me, playing smoky bars, whiskey drinking for so many years, not singing properly. Like my voice is so different now, like my singing voice, especially, so different now than it was when I was like 25. So different. Like I can't even get in the realm of some of the things that I used to like try to sing. Nah, and I've never been a great singer. Don't get me wrong if you're watching this, but I could do more than I can do now. And it is crazy. But I thought it was, smoky bars and all that. And I really, like, I think it's maybe genetics too, though, because my dad, for whatever reason, and he was a yeller. He was definitely a yeller and a talker, and it would go out. And mine, I went to the Middle Tennessee boating fishing expo on Friday, hung out for a little bit, and talked all day for the most part. And I thought I woke up, you know, Saturday like little raw, like it's not. But this is a little more than talking. This is like some kind of crap my children have gifted me. There's been a sickness in this house since Christmas. I feel like there's a lot of us here, so it just goes round and round and round. And I've avoided it. I've been good. So I'm blaming the Middle Tennessee Boating and Fishing Expo and my children.
Well, it's always ICAST or the Bassmaster Classic that, sends 30 or 40 of us into this fit. I've been fortunate to stay away from flu A, but I know 10 people in the last 15 days that have had flu A, and it doesn't, like Tamiflu doesn't touch it. Like it is something that just lasts 7 to 10 days, and people are losing, lots of weight because they just don't want to
Oh
do
hell,
anything. Yeah. Well,
send
I've
it
always,
over here.
I said this weekend, I'm one stomach virus away from meeting my goal, but I would just soon be
Send it
fat than I
on.
had to get. I can't, no. I don't want flu A. Don't get me wrong. I don't want COVID again. That's the worst I ever felt in my life. But if I had to have that as opposed to a stomach virus, give me that. I don't
Yeah,
want a
I'm
stomach
sure.
virus. It is the
No,
worst.
we did that at Christmas. No, I don't
Mm-mm.
want to do
I don't want it. I don't want it. Don't want it. And I know
that.
Jesse Wiggins and Haley and all of them had it over the holidays, and he had to do the whole IV stuff and all that. So it's bad. It's bad. So
I don't think I have the flu. I feel like I've had strep throat a bunch in my life, and my throat hurts so bad. Like when I first wake up in the mornings, that I feel like it's strep throat, but I don't have a fever. I don't really have anything, so I don't know. Maybe I'm just a sissy. I'm probably just a sissy. I texted you that we were texting about doing the
yes,
podcast. I was like,
yes.
I'll be honest, I'm just kind of being a baby. So let's just go with it.
Well,
And
let's
if I
just be
sound like this
honest.
on stage Saturday, we're bringing it, dude.
Yeah.
Like
Oh
this
yeah.
is who is that
It's
amazing
on.
voice up there on the stage? Darian ain't crap on this.
Darian ain't got nothing on that. Hey, by the way, it's his birthday. Happy birthday, Darian, the T
Oh,
guy.
Dar- Little old Darren,
The little
31
old
years young.
Darren.
Oh, baby
Little
Darren.
old. Hey, I get so tickled at him posting how people misspell his name.
Oh
So
yeah.
funny. So
In
funny. I
my
get so
phone,
tickled.
he is Darion because one of his famous Chick-fil-A is Darion. One of his famous Chick-fil-A bad receipts had it spelled like that, Darion, and I've enjoyed that for many years. That's it.
That's
But every time
awesome.
he calls, that's what pops up. It's
That's
Darion.
awesome. That's awesome. Well, happy birthday to Darian. We'll see him this weekend. Let's talk Tennessee basketball because we kind of
Okay.
talked in the Darian and I text with you
Oh yeah, I get harassed.
during some games,
Yeah.
and I did lay it on pretty thick when Florida laid down the ass whooping they did when y'all went to Florida
Indeed.
and y'all only scored 15 points in the first half. But they had to
You
visit
four for
Rocky.
27. 4 for 27 shooting in the first half, Miss K. That's gonna happen every time. I guarantee it. I don't
They
care who
were
you play.
lucky to have
You playing
15, dude.
you playing E.O. Kaufman Middle School girls up here in Lawrenceburg. If Tennessee was playing them, you shoot 4 for 27, they finna beat your ass. Sorry. It's just what happens.
But the thing about it is, and I promise you, Rick Barnes, from the minute they walked into that locker room to the minute Florida came into Rocky Top this past weekend, that thought and that feeling has not left his body. Like he embodied that loss and came back and put it like what 20 point
Yeah.
just
I think it's
smack down on him.
2021. Yeah, and I mean, it was more at times, and without Ziegler, who's our star point guard, him on the
Who
bench.
looks nothing like a basketball player, by the way.
No, he's like 5'3". I think they have him listed at like 5'7", but I think that's a lie. He's a little
Dude,
bit.
he is a little guy. We had a small guy, short guy play for Austin High School one year. And I mean, well, he actually played a few years. He was a very dominant player. His name was Jason. I can't remember his last name, but could shoot the three, just shoot the lights out of it. But he handled the ball so well and just was a great assist player and that kind of thing. And that's really kind of what we knew him as, not really a scorer, but he made stuff happen. He just saw the floor so good and those passes were so quick and just really cool to watch him play. But absolutely, Ziegler looks nothing
Yeah.
like. He reminds me of Cat Williams. I'm not even gonna lie. Like
Yeah,
every time
yeah,
I see
yeah,
him,
yeah,
I
yeah. He's
want
a
to
little
see
like
him do
cat.
tink
Yeah,
tink.
yeah, yeah. He's a little like cat. He's something, man. He's so. And I heard Barnes say, I guess a couple weeks ago, that the reason he's still coaching right now at his age, being near retirement age for him, is because of the Kai Ziegler. That he reignited his fuel for coaching, and he's such a coachable player, such a great player, such a hustler, and I love. My favorite thing about college basketball, and you and I talk about this a lot. We both share a passion for this, and the one and done guys that go to the NBA, yeah, that's cool. They're talented, like Cooper Flag at
Yep.
Duke. That
Oh
joker ain't gonna be around next year, right? He's
no.
18 years old. I don't know what my 18-year-olds that live in this house are doing, but they ain't doing it right because
Mm-mm.
Cooper Flag's doing a lot of stuff. It's like Ryan Williams at Alabama. What y'all doing
Hmm.
with your life? I ask them all
Right.
the time. Y'all an Xbox? Look what
Right.
these boys.
Right.
Uh,
Exactly.
I did guess I didn't give them the DNA they needed. I don't know. But I love and Auburn's a good example of this.
Hmm.
Don't just have that standout, and then you're able to have five dudes that have been with you, or maybe they transfer in because that's how it
Hmm.
is. But they're all seniors, they're all juniors and seniors. They play
Hmm.
like a unit. That's what I love about college basketball the most. And Tennessee's kind of got that right now. Like those Gonzaga teams from the last couple years were like that. None of those dudes went on. They didn't go anywhere, but they were
Mm-mm.
dominant in college. And Auburn's definitely that team for me this year. Ole Miss is a little bit like that. Bama's a little like that too. Uh, no, just superstar standouts that may go to the next level, but just all play together. That senior deal, not the flash in the pan. I love that. And sometimes the Dukes and the North Carolinas and the Kentuckys have more of those, it seems like, that come in hot shot for a year and then roll out. But I love the guys that stick around. Ziegler's one of those guys. Ain't the biggest dude, but he's been there 4 years. He knows the system, and like he'll take your lunch money. There's no
Well,
doubt about
and you look at Mark Sears, he got set.
it. Yeah.
Wasn't being the best teammate he could be, I guess, and he got sat. But you look at players like that that did stay in the system. Ziegler same way. I love kids that are loyal. That was one of the things that we preached to Jake when he went to college, and he is to Chandler Rose to this day. He is as loyal to Chandler as he could be. But the thing that just stood out to me about Rick Barnes, and I say this to people, and I cannot echo this enough. You learn more from a loss than you ever win or that you ever learn from a win. And no doubt the fire that he built in that team from that ass whooping they took in Florida, you could tell that team was on a mission on Saturday.
And unfortunately, I don't want to say they looked past Kentucky a little bit, but Kentucky came home. You were texting me about that. I mean, pretty close game, hard
Yeah.
fought game, real physical game, but they lost. Kentucky came in, got a win. And but to bounce back after that, they had the
Mhm.
close Vanderbilt loss. To be able to put it on Florida, like that Florida team ain't no joke. I
No,
mean,
they are no joke.
they're going to be a problem in the tournament.
But let's just look at this Vanderbilt. They're playing everybody really. They beat they beat some really good teams this year.
Kentucky,
Missouri,
Tennessee, yeah,
yeah,
Missouri,
they beat
Tennessee.
Kansas right in the very beginning of the season. Ole Miss beat Alabama. Auburn barely left there with a win on Saturday from Ole Miss. LSU, Texas A&M. I mean, Georgia got off to a really fast start. They've kind of
Yeah, I've cooled a little bit.
Yeah, they've cooled a little bit, but the entire SEC, and you really have not seen, the Alabama Auburns play each other yet. So it is going to be hard to win anywhere on the road in the SEC, aka Arkansas comes into
Yeah,
Lexington on
that's awesome.
Saturday. And I mean,
I hate Kentucky, so that's fun.
yeah, and but to me at the first of the game, I was like, Arkansas didn't really bring it, but it was like they just outlasted. And I'm not a Calipari fan, not a big Calipari fan.
Neither am I.
But I
I
think,
did think it sucked that they booed him when he
yeah,
came. Like they were waiting to, the guy was there for 15 years and you
mm-hmm,
boo him.
mm-hmm,
W. Smith also left.
mm-hmm,
Tubby's at every game and is
mm-hmm,
just heralded. And I get that Calipari's a slime ball. I
yeah.
mean, I'm not a fan, but I thought that was kind of classless to boo him, when he
Well,
came. And
you
Tennessee
also have
did
to.
some really dumb stuff. So let me say that we threw mustard bottles and golf balls at Lane Kiffin. So let me not get on my high horse here before somebody comments.
I agree with you. I think fan bases are just ruthless, and I don't think they necessarily
Worse than
carry
ever.
the opinion of the university and of the players.
Yeah.
I think, he took three other players with him and they came back
Oh
and
yeah.
beat their team. But anytime you have a starting lineup with five McDonald's All-Americans, there's so much I on that team. There really is no team. So, I said this about our team on a video the other day, and you say this all the time, and I say this, Luke talks about this all the time. They're, to me, they work so good as a team, and there's no infighting. There's no anyone wanting recognition more than the other person. It's just all about the team. And I think that's some of the things Calipari faced when he was at Kentucky is the guys he
Oh,
recruited were five-star McDonald's All-Americans.
superstars all the
Yeah,
time.
they were just constantly trying to increase their draft stock. It wasn't
Yeah.
about winning national championships together. It was about increasing their draft stock, and they did. You look at Zion Williams and people like that played for all these teams that, you know, increased their draft stock and, didn't really
Here,
have,
real,
national
real
championships to talk
quick,
about
and
it.
if you're watching this and you're like, why are Kay and Luke going on about college basketball? Hey, it's amazing. College basketball is so much fun. But if you haven't watched Cooper Flag play at
Oh
Duke
my God. He is
as an
amazing.
18-year-old, like he is as my boys say, a dog.
He
He's
is
a problem. And I've got to watch him play a bunch this year, and he does not disappoint. So if you have,
100%.
I don't care if they're playing whoever,
Mhm.
watch it. Watch it. Like he is
He would
something.
be a bucket list guy that I would want to go see play in
Yeah,
person, like a
absolutely.
Caitlin Clark. They just retired her number this year, or
Yeah.
this weekend, I guess, on Saturday, retired her number. Absolutely one of the most enthusiastic players, and how she played the game and how she handled all of the stuff around her, how she still handles all
Oh
of the
yeah.
stuff around her, because she's still very highly debated amongst the WNBA people. But no doubt you can deny what she does on the court, what she does, and how she handles all of that stuff. And he's like that to me. Like
Oh
he,
yeah. He's
but the
unfazed.
fire and just the golly when he
From
jumps up from it.
Maine,
I
man.
know.
Where's he been hiding? Like, where do they find that kid at? 6 foot, whatever.
I mean, it's
Like, just
insane.
yeah, he's something, man. And honestly, like we talk about playing as a team, I do feel like they ride him potentially all the way to the Final Four,
100%.
March, because he's just generational kind of
Yes.
guy. I think so. That
Yeah.
is the kind of the exception to the rule, but because they double team him, all it don't matter.
It doesn't matter.
But
Mm.
they're the only team that's knocked Auburn off
Yep.
this year.
Yep.
So
I,
I
I
think
I
that's
love
cool.
I love
Yeah.
to watch him play. I love good college basketball, and that rolls us right into this opening day baseball. Like it is here. It is the
Oh,
first year I've not had someone on the diamond in like 20 years. So it's hard for me. But go Falcons! They are 2-1 on the season. Opened up last weekend, so congratulations to them. They got a big weekend coming up with the University of Tampa. They're always ranked in the top two or three in D2 baseball. So big weekend down at Montevallo, but. Any news coming out of the University of Tennessee with Mr. Vitello?
Well, my wife, you'll have to call her because she
I bet she
I
is
think she's been
on.
on Tony V a little
She
bit
is
more
on
than
that
she
Twitter
should.
feed.
Yeah, she's on his. I mean, she's like, "Do you see Tony's new hat? His new haircut?" He's like, what are you doing?
I
We watch a
can't
lot more
say.
baseball around here than we used to. Not just because they good. My wife's just glued to the screen all the time. Uh, rank preseason rank in the top 10, but I lost a lot of kids,
Yeah, you
obviously.
did.
Transfer portal when you're the national champs, I think we're going to be fine this year. The coolest thing for me, and I may have talked about this on here, a young man by the name of Alex Bedford, who's a senior at Lawrence County High School, just signed full ride over there to go play for Tony V next year. So that's pretty cool. He's playing basketball with my son Wes right now, and on the starting five at Lawrence County High School. So pretty cool to see that going on for sure.
Well,
Local, hopefully going to get to go
I
play
love
for.
that. I love, 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 love to see local kids get to go because he's probably grown up a Tennessee fan. I love to
Oh
see
yeah.
that. Love to see that. It's funny. I
Oh,
got to go to dinner with Jake and Rob and Jake and I and his new girlfriend. We went to dinner Friday night and we talked about baseball and we talked about just the things and that he learned through baseball. And we both, first thing he walked in the door, he had his Montevallo shirt on. And I said, the Birds won today. And we're still talking about that. And we talked about that was the best decision he ever made. Like as an adult decision, it's the best decision he ever made. And he still stands by that. So it's pretty cool. So I love seeing young kids get to go and pursue their dreams. And
yeah.
we talked about the transfer portal and the NJCC, the junior college stuff. It's just crazy. So a lot of fun. I have to have a break from fishing, and college basketball and
Same.
baseball are my break. I could care less about football, but those basketball and baseball, that's my jam.
And I love high school basketball. My boys play and have for a number of years. All of our kids, right to Harper playing basketball when she was in high school. That's been a little bit now, and then Charlie and Wes and Hudson, and so we're down to our last one playing though, because Ryder man, my youngest, he don't care. He wants to go
Dude,
hunt, he wants to go fishing, and he wants to play Xbox. Like that's what he wants to do. He don't care about none of it. He grew up in a gym, grew up at a baseball field. He's like, nah, I'm good on all this.
it
So, and
is
I
it's
winded
sobering,
it.
dude. It's
Oh
sobering
yeah,
not to have
winded.
to
Oh yeah.
not to have to. That's the thing is you say that all the time, man, if I just don't have to pack this cooler, if I don't have to pack
Uh,
this bag. I've got a guy that lives just across the road from me. He fished with us for a number of years. Funny that we're going to be talking about Smith Lake. Oh, Rex Chambers and Brent Crow right there on the calendar from back in 2020. My organization did a calendar. Alabama Mountain Lakes did a calendar, and they were on the July photo. And that's Rex and Brent. We're talking about
awesome.
fishing in Smith Lake. You can't hardly talk about Smith Lake without thinking about Rex. But anyway, Eric out, doing soft toss to his daughter and throwing and doing all that stuff. And it just reminiscent of the life that I used to lead back just a year ago. I actually threw soft toss to Jake just a year ago. So fun times. I think it's important that people get an insight of who we are outside of bass fishing because it does tend to become your persona. I don't have many people walk up to me that say, you're Kay Donaldson, you live in Coleman. It's always, you're Kay Donaldson from the Alabama Bass Trail.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's kind of who I've become, or my name is now
Well,
just synonymous with Alabama Bass Trail.
and I love fishing, just like you do. But like you said, I got to have a break
Hmm.
sometimes. I do a show every week about it, two shows now.
Hmm.
We ABT live and PFL lives. If I'm at a high school basketball game, there's a chance somebody's coming up to me and talking about whatever craziness is going on in fishing.
Hmm.
I don't get a lot of breaks from it, and
Mm-mm.
so I like to not be now. If I get 5 minutes to go fishing, now I'm going fishing. I
I know. I
understand.
called you last week and you
But
were
I'm
fishing.
an addict. But
Yeah.
when I get a chance, I go. But I do all the other things, man. I do like to pull my brain out, my fishing brain out, not have to think about it every now and then.
I want to ask you a couple of things. I talked to Gerald the other day and I asked him some pretty unique questions. I want to ask those to you.
Okay.
Um, is there something that you would like to see brought back to bass fishing, competitive bass fishing? Um,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Payouts at the pro level.
yeah.
To make it exciting, you know what I mean? Like those big, I would love to see those days return. And not
Hmm.
because I'm competing or aspire to do that anymore,
Hmm.
but I think kind of that freak show part of it that, I mean, like when you watch a guy, like I remember those Forest Wood Cups, they're fishing for $1 million. Oh my
Mm-hmm.
God. That's how
Mm-hmm.
I feel at an ABT 100, fishing for
Mm-hmm.
25 grand on a Saturday. Like that's a lot of money. That creates
Right.
a lot of drama. I'd like to see that. Um, I'd like to see the toxicity go away
Mm-hmm.
as far as like just the fans, just enjoy that we do get to watch hours and hours in this if we choose to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like regardless of how a guy's catching them, like just don't always jump on whatever for or against whatever you're for or against, whether it's for
Right.
pheasant or you know, you're a guy that hates people that throw chatterbaits. I don't know.
Right.
It's just that I would like to see
I
that
mean,
go away.
did ever
But
you think you would
please
wake
back to
up?
bass fishing.
Did you ever think you would wake up and people would be so mad about a guy throwing a mooch minnow? You
No,
know?
never, ever. It's bizarre to me. It is. I don't. And look, I'm not that passionate really about anything. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, in life, that I'm like, obviously, I do a podcast. I am an opinionated guy, but I just the man getting on them keyboards. It's 8:15 in the morning. You just had a sip of coffee, and you're like, Drew Gill is a piece of garbage, and you're like, dude, whoa, my time. Hey, full. Okay,
Yeah.
we're going full
Yeah. We're
time
gonna take a
out.
full time
That's
out.
not cool. Just
Yeah.
breathe before you hit send
Right.
on the old Twitter or Facebook, Instagram. Just breathe a little bit because Drew Gill, fantastic human being,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
But you see so much of that now, and that's anything. Look, if
Oh
you're
God,
doing
it's
sport, it's
basketball,
more.
it's football.
Yeah,
Alabama fans, of course I have way more Alabama fans on my
yeah,
Facebook feed and it just makes me so mad I almost don't get on Facebook on Saturdays and Sundays because of,
yeah. I get it.
you know,
Doom
um
and gloom.
yeah, and these are 19, 18,
They're
19, some
kids,
17-year-old kids
kids. Yeah,
living on their own for the first time, learning how to manage their time and their books and their everything for the first time. And I hear it, oh, well, they ain't got to manage their books. They got tutors that do. There it is. Da, da, da. In some cases, probably, but not in every case. And I just get
and
I get
I
so
can
tired
tell
of
you
looking
from
at that crap.
experience that having a platform like I've had, there are things, and I talked about. I did the Zaldane's podcast, The Bilge, last year, and we talked about this. There are things that I regret being so passionate about. Not
Hmm.
because I was wrong, not because it's just like when you look back, I've been doing this for 8 years. And you look back 2019, 2018, 2019, and you're like, yeah, I'm not that tore up
Mm-mm.
about that anymore. But in the moment I was. So I,
Oh
I
yeah.
get where people freak out maybe
Mm,
sometimes, but just like ease it back
yeah,
sometimes.
I
Because
agree.
we are so blessed between what we do with Alabama Bass Trail, MPFL does, the Bassmaster Elite Series, who started it all with live
Hmm.
coverage, right? With a fantastic TV show that went into live coverage, to what BPT does, MLF, hours. If you're a fishing junkie, hours of this stuff you can consume.
Hmm.
Hours. If you don't like it, don't watch it.
Go
Just
to a different channel and watch something else because
yeah,
there's tons of it available. You can go out and watch all the negative you want. You can go out and watch all the positive
yeah.
that you want, and
Do
there's
whatever you want to
anything in
do.
between. So I want to talk about that because I think payouts are a big. It has been a big source of conversation, especially since Bass announced the no entry fee, and that was
Mhm.
all great and wonderful. And then they announced the payout, and then it became
So,
not such a good idea. And there's somewhere between, I think, doing something about the payout. But why do you think those payouts went away? And I'm going to say this: you do not have CBS coming to the Alabama Bass Trail saying, we will pay you $4 million to air your show on our channel. Unlike Alabama football or the SEC, where they're going, we want six of your games on prime time and we're going to pay you $4 million a game. That does not happen in bass fishing. Period. End of discussion. When we talk about negotiating TV contracts, we're talking about what we're going to pay a network
you be
to
on
take
TV.
our
Yeah.
show. Yeah.
Yep. That's all
So
fishing
it
shows.
is it,
Yeah.
all
All
fishing
fishing
shows.
shows.
Yeah.
You pay
I
to
hate
be
to
on the
speak for
network.
BASS or MLF, but
Yeah, I
all
don't know.
in our case, I can tell you, Kay Donaldson negotiating TV contracts is what are we going to pay for this
Yeah.
specific spot on this day at this time? No one's offering me $4 million. So you can't think about it in the way that you would a PGA at Augusta or an Alabama football game or the Ryder Cup or, the horse races or whatever. It's not that way. So where do you see those $1 million, even the 500,000 that used to be at the Bassmaster Classic? Why are those payouts no longer those payouts?
Well, I think the our industry's been diluted, right? I mean, it's so many things have changed. When I was growing up, tournament fishermen were the end all be all because they were your only quote unquote influencers. So if you fished a tournament, that's where the industry directed all their money to the organizations, to the anglers, and they still are. Don't get me wrong,
Mm-hmm.
like there's still a lot of that. But once YouTube became a thing, once TikTok, like influencers that don't wear jerseys, that don't give a dang to fish any kind of bass tournament, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
creating content. I think that diluted a lot of the budgets in the fishing industry. I don't think you can really blame that wholeheartedly, but I think that that's a big, big thing. And I think when we saw those payouts, we had a lot more non-endemics
Mm-hmm.
in the game. And you know this better than I do. Non-endemics don't hang around forever. Even when you get one, you go yes for a couple years because it's
Mm-hmm.
good. Most of the time, they're way better than fishing industry deals, in my personal experience over the years, because they don't keep up. They don't. They're like, man, this is awesome. They want to be
Mm-hmm.
involved. And a couple years, they're like, hey, we're shifting our marketing focus to X.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Shake hands, go on. I've had it happen 3 or 4 times in my career. So I think there's a lot of that once they get a taste, and I think maybe you know, like you're saying, it's a big deal to us because we love it and we grew up with it, but it's still a very niche, very you got to be invested to understand it. You
Mm-hmm.
got to be invested to want to watch it. And I just think that random, I remember MLF used to always try to pitch this like, we want to get the housewives, we don't want to just get the guy. We want to get his wife interested. And that's where every fish counts comes from, blah, 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 which does create drama. Like they
Mm-hmm.
had some of this last PBT. I'm not knocking the format, but I just have a hard time thinking. Like my wife lives with a bass fishing addict. She gives this many damns about watching bass fishing. That's all she hears about all the time. She'll go get in the boat. She'll read a book. She ain't never gonna. My best friend can be fixing to win the Bassmaster Classic. She ain't gonna watch it. She'll
Mm-hmm.
tune into us a little bit. She'll text me something funny that we're carrying on about on ABT Live or me and Fat Cat MPFL. Every now and then she'll watch. She's like, I don't get it. I don't. My boys now. This is the younger generation. My boys are obsessed with bass fishing. Not to the degree I was when I was their age. They love it. They would never watch live. They would they their demographic. They're not going to tune in. But now they love Brandon Polnick's like post tournament videos. They think the cinematography, like very professionally done. They like that.
Mm-hmm.
They watch BP's stuff. They love it. But they ain't gonna watch live. They don't. So I think there's a little bit of that. We're in such a fast paced world that things are just changing rapidly. I don't know. I think it does go back though. The ultimate carrot that we've got to have is views. You got to have the right number of viewers. It's got to be an honest number of viewers. And I think that non-endemics have to play because fishing industry. I won't say it's tapped out, but there's only so much pie to go around, and there's a lot of tournament trails, there's a lot of anglers, a lot of influencers. So I think until Cadillac decides they like the ABT, or whatever they like
Jaguar. Yeah.
yeah, Jack Daniels
Rolex.
likes the Bassmaster Classic.
Right.
Those payouts, I think we'll never get back there. And the heyday was really Walmart. You know
Mm-hmm.
that LW Tour, Irwin Jacobs, what he was able to negotiate to get shelf space. And he had Walmart hog tying folks basically, right? To,
Mm-hmm.
hey, we're gonna have 3 M&M's boats out here and we'll put M&M's on this shelf, but this is the thing we're supporting. And that's how those negotiations went.
Mm-hmm.
And M&M's didn't know if they were sponsoring Luke or Kay or Jimmy. They didn't
Right.
know. They
Right.
didn't know. But they're like, oh, cool. We got M&M's boat. They didn't know.
Right.
That was when it was at the best,
Right.
honestly, those days. And I guess it was Hackney on my show 2 weeks ago. We are kind of talking about this. And he said, man, it was the best whenever we fished out of their wrap boats and the jerseys and all that. And he goes, and then we were like, we don't want to do that anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
he said, that's really when it started changing
Well,
because that was a great way to promote.
mm-hmm. I agree with you. the one other thing, and I wrote this down, you mentioned it, and I've talked about this several times about how the pots haven't really gotten any bigger. I've talked to sponsors, talk about hard bait sales being down 13% from, hopefully that's pre-COVID numbers because let's just say 21, 22, 23. I just, well, let's say 19, 20, 21, 22. Those numbers are just not real numbers. Like
No, they're fake.
everything was so inflated. Boat sales, kayaks, canoes, tackle, whatever. So we're down 13% in hard bait sales. We know that that's portioned to forward facing sonar. But one thing that you said, and I want people to hear this more than anything, is when you split the pot between the anglers, the organizations, and the influencers, whether that be TikTok, whether that be YouTube, whether that be whatever, tell me another sport that you go on TikTok and get a million people telling you which something you should do.
Yeah.
How many times have you seen a running back on TikTok tell you how to increase your agility, how to increase your speed, how to juke, how to stiff arm, how to do this? How many have you seen? How many basketball players have you seen try to instruct you on how to shoot a three pointer or a free throw, as we seen against St. Mary's the other night?
They're important.
They could have won the game
Very
by
important.
30 points had they hit free throws. But any other sport, Talladega, if you see NASCAR, do you see football, basketball, baseball? Are they just behind the curve or are we just opportunistic in the fishing world?
You know what I think it is? And man, this will probably offend somebody. Imagine that. The problem with our sport is everybody thinks they can do it. Everybody thinks they can do it like Kevin Van Dam if they're given a chance, or everybody, you know what I mean? And I don't
Mm-hmm.
mean that in a negative, but I think that's what has spawned all these Billy Bob fishing on TikTok showing you how to do it. And a video pops off for him. And so all of a sudden he's an expert. And it's like, buddy, I'm not, no offense, but I ain't taking advice from you because I'd
Right.
rather take from Gerald Swindle because you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
but we live in a new time where that content is king and people are the go-tos that I don't know why people consider them go-tos. Like it's kind
Yeah.
of, but and another thing that has happened too, though, and people are calling us on this in the fishing industry now, is we're all salesmen. And when it was just a magazine and it's, oh, look at this, and you're reading the article, you might go get some Denny Brauer jigs at Walmart
Right.
or what.
Right.
But now, if you get on this phone right here and you go through the feed, I'm gonna see 10 and my first couple swipes that are trying to
Yep.
sell me something. And look, I got great sponsors on the podcast, just like we have great sponsors with ABT. Proud to have them.
Mm-hmm.
We do sell to people, and it's not just in fish. We are sold to as a human race
Right.
everywhere. Everything is you search on the internet, they're throwing you targeted ads on Facebook. And I mean, we do live in a different time, so I think that has changed it too. But I think it is that accessibility to bass fishing. For me as a kid, I would watch the Bassmasters on TNN and go down to my dad's pond.
Mm-hmm.
If I see Jimmy Houston throwing a spinnerbait, I'm like, well, I'll go try that right now.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do that at Talladega.
Mm-mm.
I can't go throw football like Tom Brady immediately.
Mm-mm.
Watch, let's go, boys. Get in the
Mm-hmm.
backyard, light it up. I mean, but bass fishing, you're like, you know what? I might have a chance at this. And then with electronics, the people that are misinformed about it that think it's just easy with live
Mm-hmm.
scope, it just doubled down on that thing.
Oh, right. Right. Right.
Like,
Right.
dude, if I had that television screen on the front of my boat, I promise you I'd be Drew Gill. Put me up there. And you're like, buddy, you wouldn't be. You wouldn't, like, no offense. He's an animal. I mean,
Well,
like these guys are so in tune with all their tools, but I hope that makes sense. And I
yeah.
didn't run everybody off, but like it did. Our sport is that.
Mm-hmm.
You see it in golf a little bit. I think it's kind of like fishing. There's a lot of golf channels that pop up that aren't necessarily like professionals. And I'm not saying that's the only people that should ever share their
Mm-hmm.
lives, but I'm saying like you do see that because I follow some golf stuff. I'm not even a golfer, but I'm entertained by a lot of professional golfers. And so I get thrown that kind
I
of content.
follow the two drunk girls on the golf course that are always telling the jokes, the knock knocks or
Yeah,
whatever. Like I
yeah.
follow them on TikTok, not really for their skill, but for their jokes.
But there's a lot of the how to in the golf world that's not actually, the top guys. So I'd say that kind of runs in parallel with fishing a little bit. But music Okay, I'll tell you this one because that's something near and dear to my heart. That's another one that everybody thinks they can do,
Hmm.
right? And then the internet created that thing where,
And
you know,
hey, I'm
hey,
thankful for it because Priscilla
million
Block, I would have never
percent,
known. I would have
million
never known
percent,
Priscilla
million
Block
percent.
if
It's
it
a
would have.
blessing and a curse. It's a
But
blessing and a curse.
But I think a lot of people have hopped on that TikTok trend because of people like her who were,
Yeah.
kind of discovered through that whole TikTok kind of thing.
Look
But
at Zach Bryan,
hmm
dude, because of Twitter. Like nobody would have ever known who the guy is. He sells out stadiums all over the place.
right,
Like it's crazy. Like he skipped all the steps in,
right.
working his way up to just boom,
And
stadiums.
and I think people see that. I think a lot of times especially fishing influencers see some of those make those um, ways through the social media thing. I was just really health conscious, exercise, things like that. I follow a lot of that on TikTok. Those are the people I have seen outside the fishing industry use those platforms to kind of grow that. But I still see if you want to learn to go through a spiral, you go to the Tom Brady football camp and you sign up for it and it's a one-on-one kind of thing. And I know they do Bass University. I get that. And you go and you
Yeah,
learn
yeah.
from but I try to look at fishing from a standpoint of everybody always says, well, professional football players don't pay to do this and professional baseball players don't pay to do this. But the industry is also not so saturated. You are not going to see Jake Smallwood go out and create a catching TikTok account and teach people how to block or how to, whatever. It's just you just don't see it in those type sports the way you see it in the fishing industry. So I wondered I wondered about that. All right. I want to talk two more things. Favorite
Okay.
food.
My
Favorite
favorite.
food of all time.
Yeah. I'm a big sushi guy. I'm a big, yeah. I
From
want,
Lawrence County, Tennessee, a
yeah,
big
yeah. I hated it when I was younger, but I have been obsessed with it for about the last 20 years. Big sushi guy. Always, I'm also, steak and mashed potatoes, steak and baked potato, whatever. I love a steak, but if I have a choice, I will drive way out of my way to eat sushi. Believe it or
Okay.
not.
All right.
No
Favorite
bass, no, folks. No bass, no
no
threadfin shad,
bass.
gizzard shad, nothing like that. No blueback herring. Like
Favorite
tuna.
drink. Favorite drink.
Well, right now, okay, because I'm living this wild, crazy life, Topo Chico. Um, I do drink a lot of carbonated waters, but my favorite drink of all time. Now we got talking
Yeah, I
alcohol.
mean we
We're
can talk
okay.
alcohol.
Uh, if I'm going Tito's and soda water with a lime. If we're talking an alcoholic beverage, hadn't had one in a minute, but if we're talking that, but other than that, I don't drink a lot of soft drinks, so I like a good old glass. I'll give him some props. Y'all sweet tea. There's always a couple pitchers of sweet tea in the fridge here at the Dunkin household. Always. Been drinking unsweet lately. Again, wild and crazy
Wild
lifestyle.
and crazy over there. Wild and crazy. You told me earlier that you have a Topo Chico story.
I told it on the podcast this week. Yeah, so I went to the Middle Tennessee Boating and Fishing Expo in Nashville or Lebanon, a couple hours from the house last Friday night. And I'm coming home and I stopped at a convenience store. And listen, I, if you've never had one of these delicious beverages, they're fantastic. No
They
sponsorship.
are big on the low carb, high
Yeah,
protein.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
they
well, it
run
just makes you feel
big
like
on
you're
those
having
channels.
something. Yeah, it makes you feel like you're having something. Even now, Marissa would rather walk into a closed door than ever have this. And it is an acquired taste. Okay, let me tell you.
Yes,
Every now and then you'll find one in a convenience store, and I did. Friday night, I found me one again. Been talking all day. I was like, "Oh man, that is going to soothe my soul and my vocal cords." So crushed it going down the road. And it's a long neck bottle, right? And it was a lime version, so it's a little green, kind
green
of like a
tint.
Dos Equis, a little bit. All right. Which leads us to life lesson that I try to teach on my podcast, and I will teach to all you ABTers out here is had it in a cup holder. And I went through a sobriety checkpoint in Lawrence County, Tennessee,
And
about
was
5 minutes.
proud to go through it.
Yeah, I was like, damn, let's go. Y'all want me to do some backflips down this line? Let's go. Like I was ready. Like I came over the hill, you know. I ain't saying I've had questionable moments in my life, Miss K, but this was one that I was sure I was going to pass the sobriety checkpoint.
This is one test that you knew
Yes,
you were
one
going to
test I
pass.
knew I was going to pass. I come over the hill, blue lights everywhere. It's crazy. See the sign, sobriety checkpoint. Old buddy walks up to me, flashes a light in my eyes. He says, "You've been drinking tonight," which sidebar, do people just go, yeah? Do they
Yeah.
just, oh, I mean, maybe they do. I've been really drunk before, and I don't know that I would be trying to find a way to not tell a state
Yeah.
trooper, well, I've had seven. Well, you did it. Where you going? Where y'all going after this? Well, I like them lights. It was just weird. And I always think it's the dumbest question. I've been through a bunch of them. You been drinking enough? Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
Like, sure. Mm-mm.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-mm.
so, so anyways, he asked me the question. He's like, all right, have a good night. He turns to go, and all of a sudden he whips that light back around and goes, what is that? Right on the old Topo Chico. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm thinking, all right, first of all, what kind of idiot brings a beer to the sobriety checkpoint? I watch a lot of cops. I'm sure it happens a lot. But I just went, water. Just like that. He was not happy about that answer.
He was not entertained.
He was not entertained. And I just said, water, just like that. And he said a couple choice things and then turned around and told me to get out of there. But word of the wise, if you're enjoying a delicious beverage in a long neck glass bottle and you come up on, maybe you just get pulled over. Maybe it ain't a sobriety checkpoint. Throw it in the back seat. Just throw it in the back seat. You'll be better. Save yourself some trouble. I called Marissa and I'm like, I think I about just went to jail over my Mexican water I like to drink. Hey, Trump's America. I don't know. Maybe I get deported.
Dude, I don't know. That is hilarious. I have drank the clear bottle Topo Chico, but I've not drank the green bottle Topo Chico. I don't really know what the difference is, but
With the lime, greens with
oh,
the lime.
green
Yeah,
slime. Okay.
yeah. The lime is everybody. Listen to this. All these, dude. I know so many of my favorite people in the Alabama Bass Show that do listen to our show when we do these. They're just gonna kill
They're
me.
gonna just keep, yeah, yeah. You better get ready for that
Oh,
on
you
Friday and
sissy! Oh,
Saturday.
you having your bubbly water? Like,
Yeah, having your bubbly water.
yeah,
Well,
you're
you
not.
know, Mark Condren, we interviewed him after a win on the Alabama Bass Trail. Maybe it was their Angler of the Year, whatever. But he was saying that in his um, snack bag, he keeps, is it bubbly or poppy or some
Pop,
kind of,
they're both things. Yeah,
yeah,
Poppy's like they're a soft drink that's
yeah,
no sugar, like some kind
yeah,
of weird. I've had them. They're kind of weird.
yeah, yeah,
They knock off all like the flavors, like they have like a
yeah.
mountain knock off and a
Yeah,
Dr.
it was
Pepper.
something like that, and I was like, "That is not at all what I thought he was fixing to come out with on
Supposedly
his snack
healthier.
bag." Yeah,
Yeah, supposedly healthier.
cool.
I don't know.
All
Marissa, the
right,
triple threat, dude, she's running me in circles here. Like she's trying for me to not have a heart attack. I get it. I'm sick of it. I hadn't had an energy drink since like Halloween. I'm jonesing. I tell y'all all this. I'd like to have me a big old Mountain Dew about right now. Or a Celsius. I know they're not a sponsor, but come on.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've told
Yeah.
David
What a cheeseburger.
every time I see one of our anglers with an energy drink, it is a Celsius. I've told David Miller, I'm like, "Hey, come on with the
Yeah.
Celsius because I love a good Celsius."
You let me get a Celsius sponsorship or
Oh,
somebody I work with has a Celsius sponsorship, I will have to be paddled back to life by midnight because I will drink so many. If I have an excuse, send a Celsius case and a paycheck here so I can tell my wife I can start having them again. And oh, buddy,
oh, buddy, it's
I
on.
get to
It's on.
I get to Jones and walking by them at the grocery store. I ain't had one in so long. They're so
I love
delicious.
them. I love them. And I'm lucky. I've got a Dollar General within a rock's throw of me, and I've got a gas
So,
station that I can keep them. But I don't keep them here because I will like be an addict. I just
yeah.
like, it's kind of like lighting a cigarette off of a cigarette. Like that's how I would be
Yeah.
drinking them.
I'm a one a
Is,
day. I was always a one a dayer. Like I'm not the only time ABTs, honest to goodness. Drink one in the morning and then drink one like because we have that lull, right?
uh-huh.
Between and it's kind of like and trying to get your energy up for the weigh in. So Darian
Mhm.
and I'll normally go get a Celsius, but not
Especially
you.
that 2.5 hour weigh in, which we're fixing to have on Smith Lake.
Yes, we are.
And, let's go ahead and talk about it because, I mean, it's like this is a fishing podcast kind of
Yeah,
thing. And
we
we've
can talk
talked to
about
everything
fishing.
except fishing podcast. But I kind of said this at the beginning of the podcast before you came on. It really is time to tighten your belt, buckle up your bootstraps, pull them up, put your big girl panties on because it's time. I mean, it's time to kick
We're
the
here.
season off. And it was just boom, 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 boom. I mean, it's just starts and then it's like you take a deep breath and it's over. So it's going to be a
Yeah.
really busy season when you factor in like the East Tennessee show and all these other shows we go to, the Bassmaster Classic. It is a full spring of doing things. But let's talk about Smith Lake. I did a little bit of research leading up to this podcast. I don't know why, because it always goes out the door. Whatever. In my research, we've opened the season 3 times at Smith Lake. 2016 took 2267 to win. That was Mark McKeag and Tim Hurst. 2019, it took 1919. That's when Tim Griffith and David Ayers. That is the year that it rained and, dang near flooded us out. Crazy weather. The Saturday before the tournament, I was getting calls that people couldn't get their boats in because it was so shallow because the water was down so far.
Yeah.
It literally, we had to move the trailer on Saturday. It came up 17 feet in 3 days. It was crazy. Took 1919 to win there. And then in 23, that's when John Kellett, Zeke Gossett won. 1788 is what it took there. So we started the season, 3 times there. Thing that is different than any of these times, we've got a week long of warming conditions. We're going to get a little bit of rain, not really set to be a whole lot. I think it's 20 to 40% chance Thursday, 20% Friday, 20% Saturday, scattered. But you're going to be in the 70s, like 72, 74, kind of going to be in that 62, 64 degree range on Saturday. So, thought process moving into Smith Lake.
So I think obviously that's going to bode well. Like they're going to crush them. They're going to really, really catch them. I talked to a couple of anglers that were over there last week, milling around and fisher biting. But I think what that does, I mean, we're not going to see some big rush to spawn or anything like
Right.
that, obviously, like you would in Florida after a
Right.
big cold. Going through that cold that we had, which was brutal
Brutal.
for a few days, water temperatures plummeted
Plummet.
right after our Gunnersville ABT 100, really just plummeted. And from what I've seen, I fished 2 or 3 days here in the last week. And what I've seen, like right after that cold, actually on before, so we had cold before the ABT 100, then it warmed up just a smidge, and then more cold. A local lake that I fished, the water temperature went from like 48 to like 39 during that. And I love to go out. I like to live scope a lot this time of year. You couldn't even see a fish. Like they were so tight to the bottom, it was insane. Like every now and then you'd watch one kind of move, but they really dissipated. So then we had some warm weather this past week, and I've gone to a couple different lakes, and all of a sudden it's like they're starting to move around a little bit. They're feeling, and it had warmed up like 4 or 5 degrees just in the small time we've had in some of these warmer nights. So I predict by Saturday it's just going to be a fish fest. Like I really think they're just going to catch them. Now, whether that's suspended live scope fish, which I think will play a huge role in this one. I really, really do. Obviously, you could get some up there. We've had some rain. We get a little bit more rain. You could see some cranking going on. That definitely, I think, like the year McKeag and Tim won, that was probably a big deal there that year. So you could see some of that cranking. Could see that, like a DT6. You could see that playing big time. You could see a jerk bait playing. But I think all it will do is really get those fish, get the bait fish. Now, my boys and I went yesterday afternoon for like 2 hours, bait fish flipping and flicking on the top, on the surface. And
Mm-hmm.
I actually watched a couple bass like blow up on minnows yesterday. I watched
Mm-hmm.
them for 24. So, like, they're ready. They're feeling it. Days are getting a little longer. This will be a good one. But I think overall, I just think the fishing will be really good at the end of this week. And the
Well,
weather,
you're
you can't complain. Even if you're not
no.
getting bites, this is ABT, buddy. It could be 13 degrees. Take it,
Well,
take it we get.
and I said this. I mean, we're looking at a what I still consider 5 days long range forecast.
Yeah. Oh
We
yeah.
could still have a polar vortex, but all this does is make me worry about March. When
Oh
we
yeah.
have a nice February event,
We're cooked.
it's
Yeah, we're
our
cooked.
goose is cooked. Our goose is cooked.
April. Don't even say.
True.
I have turkey hunted in the snow in Tennessee in April on Easter before. After we had a nice February, so like we're never out of the woods cold front wise, and we're just all waiting on the bomb to drop right now. I think with
Well, you always have blackberry winter, but I
oh
did
yeah,
hear the weatherman say this morning we'll have cold snaps, but they shouldn't last as long
I
as
hope
what we have seen, the 7 brutal days of not being above, you know, uh freezing degrees, 32, I guess. So looking at those weights, an average on that's about 19 pounds. Do you think that's kind of where we're going to be on Saturday? Do you think we can reach that 19, 20 pounds? I mean, last year we had a 20-pound bag that was in April. We had a
Hmm.
701 big fish, Craig Grubbs and Matthew Ferguson. And I actually saw a photo of Matt this past weekend that had a pretty nice bass there. Now, it could have been from last year. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it was from last year,
Be a
but
teaser.
yeah, he's teasing. He's teasing. Can we see a 20-pound bag this weekend on
Absolutely.
Smith Lake?
Absolutely. If you're going to, in my opinion, I said the same thing at the ABT 100 at Guntersville. Like, this is when these fish are going to weigh the heaviest. They've been feeding on shad, feeding on bluebacks. This is when you have the potential. I mean, you got to look at April was spawn time, still a little bit of pre-spawn, but like a lot of those fish had laid out, and we
Hmm.
had two 20-pound bags.
Right.
So will we see it? Yeah, I think if you're going to, it will be, especially with this weather. Like, they're going to be up roaming around, and there's going to be some teams that I've got on my list that are going to win. I think
So you
we,
think one of the teams you've listed are going to win this tournament?
I think potentially yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right. Well, let's just get to
Feel
it because
pretty
there's
confident about my five this week.
okay. All right. Well, I only wrote down four, but I can come up with a fifth one. Let me hear your team, sir.
All right. Well, I'm going Zeke and Ethan because, like you said, Zeke and John Kellett were a dream team. ABT North AOYs. Zeke and Ethan almost won the ABT 100 AOY last year and had boat trouble with the last one. They got off to a great start again at the 100 at Guntersville. Now they're fishing everything together, and they are a dangerous, dangerous, dangerous team. And Ethan is one of, and Zeke, obviously, fantastic angler. But what you always hear about Ethan, Ethan don't say a lot.
Mm-mm.
Ethan's quiet. Ethan's one of the best scopers around.
Mm-hmm.
He just is. Like, he is. We cover him a lot. We watch him a lot, and they're both good at it. But Zeke will do other things.
Mm-hmm.
Ethan dialed on that.
Dowd.
That's what he needs to do. And so I think of all of our tournaments we have all year, the next
They're
two
going to be. Yeah.
are going to be scope dominated.
Yeah.
They just set up that way now.
All right.
Zeke and
Who's
Ethan. I'm going. I mean, I don't know if you look down the list, Gabe, but there's a Wiggins in it. So Jordan Wiggins go fish with Steve JQs again. They barely missed winning last year, man. They thought they had it. I'll never forget that emotion when they dropped those fish on the scales and came up just a hair short. And so here we go again. Repeat February. We'll see. I'm never picking against a Wiggins on Smith Lake ever, ever, ever,
mm-mm.
ever. So got them. I'm going Justin Bussey, Ben Webb in my top five because they've been everywhere but first place basically
Mm-hmm.
all over the
Mm-hmm.
map. AOI last year they got off to a top five, third place down there at Guntersville ABT 100, and they've spent a lot of time on scope and deal,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't live too terribly far from there. So I feel like they're going to have something to say. I think you've got to go Brent Crow, Jimmy Mason because Brent Crow's forgot more about Smith than I'll ever know about it. And I just think you don't. And I just, those guys, they're such veterans. And I know you and Brent, you told the story on my podcast about Brent's been around since the beginning of the ABT with you. He's a,
Mm-hmm.
he's a dear friend. He's a dear friend of mine. He's always very accommodating to us on live. And that team together, they're both such talented anglers. I just don't know how we won't see them hoist a trophy at some point
Right.
together, you
Right.
know. So Smith would certainly be one of those places. You think Gunnersville, you think Pickwick with those guys for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I could see that again. Brent, very dialed with live scope. I talked to Jimmy about it not long ago. He's been spending a lot of time, getting more and more comfortable with it too.
Mm-hmm.
And that team wouldn't surprise me. And then my fifth one is I'm never going to pick against this dude ever again in anything, and that's Fisher and Ryan Anaya. They just again on a roll, got a big win. ABT North last year at Gunnersville to end the year. I would not doubt that they start the year with a win. They know Smith. Fisher Fisher spent a lot of time on Smith Lake, and now he has nothing to hold him back because his high school, I don't even think he went to school. Let's just be honest. I think the principal liked to fish and they gave him a diploma because the boy fishes all the time.
All
But
the
now
time.
he hold him back. He's fishing the opens this year. He's fishing Toyotas. He's all in. Like, this is his dream. Would not surprise me at all to see them in the mix on Saturday. And then I've got a dark horse for you, by the way. I
Good.
do. I do have a dark horse. I did my homework. And then you're going to go, what? I think you're going to go, on this one. Hunter Brewer, Nathan Brewer. Watch that one. Watch that one. Watch that one. That's going to be a team this year. That's going to be a problem, I think, all year long. And you know that.
100%.
Now, you know,
100% Pickwick, Gunnersville. I get that. Wheeler.
I'm telling you, them boys catch them at Smith. They catch them at Smith. They have. I have fished with them at Smith. I fished with Michael at Smith over the years. They know Smith. They know a lot about Smith. They've had some dear friends down there over the years. They spent a lot of time with. But February, the way those guys like to fish, I could see them doing really well. But Hunter now is at UNA. He's having a lot
UNA.
of success. You know, he's in that college mode, and that college fishing is only going to make you better. And then Nathan's, an ABT winner, one of the best fishermen I've ever been around in my life. But that team, I didn't realize they were fishing until you sent me the list, and I'm like, yeah, you better watch them. You better watch them. Wouldn't surprise me.
We are real close on some teams. I have two that you did not mention. And then I went ahead and put a dark horse down because I didn't have a dark horse, but I will remember that from now on. I had Jordan and Steve for sure. I don't think you ever bet against a Wiggins on Smith Lake. Um, they were a little salty last year after they weren't able to. And Jordan was fishing as an alternate last year. This year, he's on the team. This is like their team for the year. I think you can't bet against them. I have Zeke Gossett, Ethan King as well, just because that's what these guys do. They fish. I don't know that they have other jobs. Maybe I'm wrong, but they fish and they put their time in, and I just think they break down bodies of water just incredible because that's what they do. So I won't bet against them. Honestly, they will be on my list every tournament, all
Yeah,
14 events this
I
year.
promise.
Because if they don't make the championship, I will absolutely be crazy. But I have a feeling they're going to help someone else get into the championship because they're going to qualify in each division. So I have Zeke Gossett, Ethan King as well. Wesley Sams, Craig Daniels.
I'm so sorry, guys. I skipped it. Golly, I'm
Yep.
in trouble.
I'm just
Oh,
saying.
that's it. You can't.
I
No, you
can't
can't.
believe you went
I
there.
know.
Um,
That- I'll be honest. I
Roger
just
Sams,
overlooked it.
Wesley Sams. Yeah, yeah, I was talking to a guy at the Birmingham Boat Show the other day that was part of the Anderson family. Had the big Anderson boat tournament for years and years and years and years, and he talked about Roger Sams and he talked about Craig Daniel and Jackie Flack and the amount of money and boats and everything they've won on Smith Lake, and so. And they won in the Alabama Bass Trail. Craig Daniel, Jackie Flack, they were the first ABT winners, championship
Yep.
winners on Smith Lake. Wesley's won tons of our tournaments there, had great finishes. He was like in third or fourth that same, last year. So
Oh
Wesley
yeah.
Sams, Craig Daniel. Um,
Dadgummit, I can't believe I'm sorry. I didn't do my research quick enough to even if their names that would have been first on my list. I'm sorry. To Wesley
and
Sims.
then
Craig Daniel's a legend in my life, by the way. Continue.
Damian Willis, Tyler Kiker.
Yeah, I know.
They probably had in the realm of Alabama Bass Trail Live, Smith Lake last year and Weiss Lake a couple years ago. To me, they did sight fishing, and to me, that was one of the best lives we've ever done because we've never really got to do another live with sight fishing. Either
Mhm.
we've missed it in the schedule, or things just didn't set up that way. But we've missed it in live the last year or so. But that live on Weiss with them sight fishing was to me the best live we've ever done. And then to watch them last year on Smith. Now they put on a clinic at Gunnersville a couple years ago too. They just catch them, and they've had a second, and they've had I think an eighth place, and then they've had a win there. So they tend to do well on Smith Lake, and Damien's one of those kind of guys. And of course, he told me the other day if Tyler can find his rods because he probably has not put a hand on a rod since the championship. He's a hunting guy, loves
Yeah.
to hunt, hunt, hunt. So he probably has not even thought about fishing until he got his email at 10 o'clock this morning. He probably said, "Oh, it's ABT week." But Damien kind of flies under the radar, kind of practices when nobody else is out there, kind of looks for stuff. So I just feel like that they are That team that kind of is sneaky at Smith Lake, and I think they'll do well. I hate not to include Mark and Tim in my teams. They've done really well there. Um, they had a win last year at Martin. They fished very similarly, so I think I do have them written down. And my dark horse is one of the only lakes this team has. This is one of the only lakes this team hasn't won, and that's Mitch Mitchell, Candler McCollum. They've had good finishes, but I just feel like that they want to win there. I mean, they've won hell everywhere else. So
Pretty
they
much,
want
yeah.
to win there. So they are my dark horse. And I can't believe neither one of us said McAvoy and Butts.
Ah,
I just, they do really well at Smith Lake too. They put their time in. But there's a lot of good fishermen, and we've got a lot of new people that we're not really acclimated with yet. So we're going to have to figure those teams out as well.
225 teams, and we for our podcast for talking purposes get to pick about five or six. Like
Five or
it's
six.
it's tricky. Somebody always gets left out. Mark and Tim, like you said, I
Hmm.
mean, I ain't betting against them anywhere we go
Yeah.
ever,
Yeah.
especially early in the year. Like
Yeah.
ever. Like I'm just not going to bet against them.
Well, we talked about when they didn't fish the 100 this year. Mark talked to me and he said, we love live scope, but we're not as good as some of those guys. And he felt like the schedule really set up for live scope with two Tennessee River Lakes and then having Eufaula. So he didn't sign up this year. And he said, I really hate that we didn't, but we know that our skill level at that is not at what some of these other guys are going to be doing. So I do think LiveScope's going to play. I'm excited to see if we see anybody go to the bank. I'm like you. I don't think it's going to be warm enough to push those fish up there yet. They're not going to be. This is the earliest we've ever been to Smith too. Now we've started ABT the very first year on February 1st. I would say this is the earliest since 2014 we've started the season. So these other tournaments were on the 11th of February, the 23rd, and the 27th of February that we had at Smith. So this is very early in the
That
season.
makes a
So
big difference, right? And the seasonal, like for me, the transitions that fish go through to get ready to spawn as the days, because we gain daylight every day. I think that makes a big difference. And so there's a big difference in the 27th and the first weekend. I mean, I still feel like it'll be a winter time type pattern
mhm.
in this one. But this warm weather will have the bait fish moving around and have the fish feeling a little froggy. I think it'll be there'll be some fish caught shallow. Like don't if you're not going to tune into ABT Live because you think we're just going to be watching a bunch of guys staring at the screens, there'll be fish caught shallow. Like I promise you. Will it be one there? I don't know. Uh, Craig Groves, Matt Ferguson last year never caught a largemouth in practice and then caught 20 pounds of them with a 7 pounder the day of, and they called them up
Right,
shallow. So you never know. You
right.
don't. Smith is an odd place, man.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic lake, but the fish do
They do
what
their
they're
own
going to
thing.
do.
It's one of
Yes.
those things.
Yeah.
It's, yeah,
Don't fish
it's
like anywhere else you'll ever go. It
right.
just never.
And I didn't pick them, and only because I wouldn't have picked them ever at Smith Lake. I would have
Yeah.
picked them at Pickwick, at Wheeler, at
Of
Gunnersville
course.
because that's kind of their thing. Can lightning strike twice? Yes, I guess it can. I guess it can. I'm gonna tell you another team that I think it is time. And Smith Lake plays really well to this team. I think Jason said last year we pull up at 10:04 and catch me, whatever. Um, Delano Green Jr.
But just everywhere we go, though.
I know,
And
but like I I see this year they get a trophy this year. They get a trophy this year. I just
all
it's
over it,
just they
all the
have
time.
been all over it. Um, I said this. Scott Russell called me this morning, and he didn't tell me to say his name, but he called me this morning. It's been with me since year one. So we just celebrated, our 12th or, the day of our first tournament ever. Scott was there that day and we talked about it. And one of the things I said the other day is the amount of people that I've watched their families grow. People get married, have babies, lose family members, spouses, mothers, daddies, whatever. And he was one who lost a spouse last year. And we were talking about just the familyness of the Alabama Bass Trail. And he said, if I never win another check in the Alabama Bass Trail, he said to participate in something that I have physically watched grow the way the Alabama Bass Trail has, and watch the number of people that have gone to the next level. The Justin Atkins, the Justin Hamners, the Jesse Wiggins, the Dustin Cannells. When you think about all of those that have graduated from the Alabama Bass Trail and went and done crazy things, it's pretty freaking awesome. I mean, look
Yeah.
at Wesley Gore, go from the ABT and then go to the Elite Series, finish eighth, I think, in the Angler of the Year points in his first year. To watch that progression and know that we had a small part to play in that, I thought was awesome.
Yeah, it is indeed a family. I can't wait. The 100s are fun, but the North and South, that's real deal family. I always feel like, right? Like it's and I'm just getting to know a lot of these teams. Some
Hmm.
I've known for many, many years are dear friends of mine, been around, fished against, and all over the country against them. But last year, the greatest thing for me was being welcomed in by the
Hmm.
ABT family. So I'm so ready to get this thing started, and hopefully I'll get to keep this deep voice.
Well, I tell you, you said Nathan Brewer, and that tickles me to death because Nathan, the only person to ever do his polygraph in Aunt Annie's beer garden,
Yeah, yeah.
wherever it was, St. Joe,
St. Joe,
Tennessee, or
Tennessee. Yeah. Shout out.
March 2018 was the coldest day until last year at Pickwick I think I've ever spent. And that Nathan then won, and our polygraph examiner got put in the hospital with the flu and what the heck ever. And the only polygraph examiner I could find didn't have an Alabama license, so we had to cart ourselves up to Aunt Annie's Beer Garden and take the polygraph exam up there. And I was so just devastated because I'm going to have to inconvenience these people to go and do this. And he goes, "Well, we live in Lawrenceburg. It's right on the way
Going right
home." And I was
by.
like, "The only person inconvenienced is me." So I just went up there and we had a nice dinner, and they took their polygraph and we went on about our way. But the only person to ever have to take a polygraph at Aunt Annie's Beer Garden, well,
Oh,
now
and
I
it
say that.
actually closed not long after that. So I think y'all got it shut down. Once people heard they were giving out polygraphs, and folks down there quit going.
All the liars said,
They're
"Nope,
like,
I'm going
"Damn,
home. I'm going
we
home."
can't go to the beer garden no more, man. What if my wife asks where I've been and they got a polygraph set up in there? That ain't good."
Oh my goodness. All right. You want to guess a weight? Winning weight?
19, 19, 1910, 19.1.
1910.
That's gonna be my guess.
I actually was around that 19 pound myself. I think I'd love to see a 20. I just think we're a little early. It may show out. I just love the fact that we look ahead and there's no numbers that start with three or
Yeah.
two or
And
one.
no frost
No
really. No,
frost.
no,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
no sleet,
There
no
could
hail.
be another F word coming, that might be there, but
Say it. Don't say it.
I'm not going to say it. But we got to prepare for it either way. Either
No
way,
doubt. Yeah.
five
Keep going.
hour, 5 hours live coverage on AlabamaBassTrail.org, on YouTube, on the facial book. You, Darian, Jason, back together for year two.
Yeah. Can't wait.
Gonna be a lot of fun. Gonna be a lot of
I
fun.
saw Jason last Thursday up there at Phoenix Boats and good old Winchester, Tennessee, and he's still talks to me when he sees me outside the Alabama Bass Show. So I guess that's good.
That's good. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. I get a message from him every now and again, so he still keeps up with Miss K too. So,
Good.
all
Good.
right. Well, I don't know what you have the rest of the day, but go rest your voice and get ready. You got a lot of talking to do come
Yeah, no,
Saturday.
that's exactly what my wife said the second my feet hit the floor this morning. I said, "Well, we got a sore throat." She said, "Better take yourself to the doctor because you got to talk for Miss K this
You got
weekend."
to talk. That's right. Hey, I like it. I like Marissa
Yeah.
and me
Oh
teaming up
shoot!
on you.
Listen. Oh, if it's something she can yell at me about, trust me when I say she's gonna do it.
Good deal. Guys, there you have it. Luke Dunkin, the low lifer himself, the voice of the Alabama Bass Trail. You'll see him live this Saturday at Smith Lake. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Research and development is more than just time in the shop for us. It's time out here. Sweating the details. Making boats that work as well in the real world as they do on paper. From our R&D team to our anglers on the water, we have the knowledge and passion to build you the finest fishing platform in the world.
Welcome back to the third segment, the final segment of the Alabama Bass Trail podcast for this week. A couple things I want to go over. And questions that I've been getting a lot over the last couple of weeks since the season started. Several of you have reached out to me regarding the Ultimate Angler tournament. And I want to say this as clear and as plain as I can without anyone thinking that I'm throwing shade to one organization or the other. But honestly, just being 100% transparent with you, I know as much as you know. I think in the beginning, a lot of people felt like the Alabama Bass Trail, Bassmasters, MPFL, MLF, and all of these organizations were involved in this, and that's just simply not true. We were not contacted prior to this announcement going up before the event. We knew nothing about it. We knew nothing about our events being sanctioned. We don't even know what that means. The questions that I've received from you are, how do I know if I'm the winner? I have no way of knowing that. I do know that they're sharing a lot of our social media. I know that they're sharing a lot about our tournaments, but I would direct you to contact them through their website or through any phone numbers that they have. We just simply have not been made aware. No one from their organization has reached out to us. I don't know how the rules work. I don't know anything other than they've said our events are sanctioned. I have no idea if both of you are members and you win, how that works. We just don't have any information on it. So I would highly encourage you. I do not know the people that are involved or in charge there. But I would highly encourage you to reach out to their website. If there's a phone number there or contact there, to reach out to them if you have questions. And I 100% am not trying to be, this isn't my job kind of thing. I just don't know. We've not had any dialogue, period, end of discussion with them. No phone calls, no emails, no text messages, anything with that organization. So if you have questions as how the Alabama Bass Trail falls into that, I would really encourage you to call them. So, but I do want to talk about Smith Lake. We are 4 days away from kicking off our 12th season. There's a couple things that have changed for this year, and that is you should have already received your email this morning on Monday at 10 o'clock about Smith Lake. You will receive your boat number. Well, by the time you hear this, you will have received your boat number at 5 o'clock on Monday afternoon. That is giving us time to get your alternates in place and to figure out, any alternates so that we can forward those on to the live team and to the people who produce live so that they can correctly put team names and everything up on the screen when we show up and cover you. So doing that on Friday afternoon is just too quick of turnaround for us to be able to get that back to them, especially not finding out until Friday at 5 o'clock when a lot of us has already worked all day and then they're out of the office after 5 o'clock. So from now on, you will receive your text message with your boat number on Monday at 5 p.m. and you will have Wednesday at 5 p.m. to let us know if you're going to be using an alternate. So please make sure that you do that. Again, we're 18 days away from Lake Martin. Looking forward to getting back down there. I talked to someone who just moved to the state back in November. They fished their first BFL on Lake Martin this past weekend. And the one thing he said is that lake is stock full of 1 pound bass. He said there are tons of fish in that lake. And he thought it was a lot of fun to fish down there and really enjoyed his experience. So, tickled to death that fishing season has finally kicked off, and we look forward to being at Lake Martin. And I want to thank Sandra Fuller and her staff there at Tallapoosa County for being our host. Another question that's come in several times over the past week is when can you declare your alternate? And unfortunately, that deadline has passed. It was December the 20th. Again, I highly recommend that you go to the website and read the rules. Had you done that, you would know that that deadline was December the 20th. We will not allow you to add any alternates or change your partner after that date. Very important to read the rules there. Again, the meeting is Friday night. We will be at Bevel State Community College in the auditorium. That is a change from where we have been in past years. There was a conflict in scheduling, so we will be at the auditorium there at Bevel State. So please make sure to make a note of that. The address and everything was included in your email that you received on Monday. I do want to thank Luke Dunkin for staying with me. We went a little long today, but I want to thank Luke for being with me today on the podcast, talking all things Luke Dunkin, Tennessee, basketball, baseball, fishing, all the things. I look forward to having him at Smith Lake along with Darian and Jason. Do want to remind you to please subscribe, rate, and review our show on your podcast app, as well as share it with your fishing friends. We would love to have them listen in as well. I do hope that you will hug your loved ones. Make sure to give your little fur babies a little extra treat. And then also be mindful of being where your feet are and enjoy the small things, and don't sweat the small things. Y'all have a great day, and we'll see you at Smith Lake this weekend. Peace out.
Thanks for listening to the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast. To learn more about the Alabama Bass Trail, make sure and visit alabamabasstrail.org.